What's up, guys? ZAN for Forward Progress Madden. In this video, I'm going to do an entire offensive scheme that I've been running this year on the current gen version of Madden 25. That doesn't go to say that this offense can't be run on the next gen, but rather that some of the motions and route combinations I use on the next gen aren't as effective as they are on the current gen. Because of that, while I still could run it because reads are reads on the next gen, I've decided to go with a different approach on the Xbox One compared to what I like to do on the Xbox 360. So the scheme I'm going to be breaking down today is Shotgun Snugs. And of course it's in the New Orleans playbook. Everything I've broken down this year offensively has been out of the New Orleans playbook. I'm a fan of being the type of player that picks a playbook at the beginning of the year and sticks with it through thick and thin. You know, if I find myself in a bind in a game in January, but I've had lab games, money games, tournament games, league games, dating all the way back to August in the same playbook, I'm going to be better equipped to get out of that situation. Whereas if I'm a playbook hopper and I'm hopping from New Orleans to Carolina to San Francisco to Green Bay to run and shoot, I'm not going to have the reps. I'll have reps in each book, but not as many as I have in this book. So the scheme is the Shotgun Snugs. It's a 4 wide receiver scheme, but I prefer if you do not have 4 great wide receivers, which most teams don't. So I wouldn't expect that. I like to put a tight end at the inside slot position. So I'm using the Broncos, and I'll explain why here. But I like to put Julius Thomas at the left slot. We go with the basic 3 receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back that Peyton Manning likes to go with in real life. Now, you're probably asking me, okay, well, why aren't you using a mobile quarterback? Well, I've come to the point running this scheme that I don't block extra players. I leave Peyton Manning or whoever my quarterback is exposed, and whatever blitz my opponent wants to send at me, I'm used to it. I've got the reads down because I've spent so much time. So if you prefer, you can use a quarterback like a Russell Wilson or a Colin Kaepernick. For the most part, the offense works just fine. But I also think that the elite, lesser mobile quarterbacks like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, they make throws in the game that players that aren't close to 99 overall rated can't possibly make. And it's just a feel thing. Like you'll throw into coverage, but for some reason the computer puts a ball where only the receiver can catch it, and rather than an incomplete pass, you have a completion. Aaron Rodgers gets this same effect. So if you like to use the Packers, Aaron Rodgers provides you with the mobility, not as much as a Kaepernick, but he still makes those, I like to call them cheating type throws, where you make a bad read but the computer compensates for you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the breakdown. This is a scheme that has several plays. I live in this formation the entire game. I want to go ahead and set up the nickel strong because that's a very popular defense that's been run this year. Let's go ahead and put Bruce Irvin there. Let's put Clemens on the other side, Averill, and Bennett. And then we can go ahead and put Smith and Wagner. So go ahead and just call that. But the scheme that I run is basically entirely out of the Snugs, and you're probably thinking, well, that's very one-dimensional because the only play that's a run play in this formation is a halfback draw. Yeah, it is, and it's terrible. Halfback draws are not good this year, so you have to have a pretty darn good passing attack. So I've been in this since July 26th when I went down to Orlando to do some testing down at the EA Community Day event. This is the book I looked at. I picked it there, and it's treated me fairly well. I mean, throwing the ball every down, it may seem like it's a tough task, but there are good fallbacks in this offense. You can run twins flex. You've got weak IH twins, which I broke down a play out of. You've got several formations that you can run the ball out of. Bunch weak is a very popular formation, so if you're not comfortable with the Snugs, you can still run the bunch weak. It's got all the plays that players like to use. But we're going to stick with the Saint Spot Shake, and rather than do a million different videos like I did with the 4-3 over odd, I found that players would see bits and pieces of the ebook, but they didn't see the entire thing, so they would ask me questions that I answered in other videos. So this is going to be a long video. I'm talking probably 25-30 minutes. So go ahead and check the timestamps in the description. So I'll break down each play, and then I'll go back and do some editing on the video, and I'll mark in the description where each play starts. So if you want to skip around, feel free. So let's go ahead and get started with Saint Spot Shake. This is the base play in my formation, and I started running it in July. And when I was down there, I found that the guys that I was down there with, like Mosta Chappie, Gibbs, Farles, they all ran this nickel strong, and they like to bring this generic heat off the right edge. And I found that excuse me, sorry, I found that the best way to attack that was with this route combination. You're going to slant Thomas over the middle. You got Decker on the spot shake route behind it. You could put Welker at that position if you want, because he's got better route running, might create better separation for you. But nonetheless, you have Thomas clearing out the zones over the middle in his slant pattern. Decker's going to sit down in the hole in the zone behind that, and then I like to actually streak Marino down the seam, so that gives you basically 3 guys in a triangle to throw to over the middle. And you're going to see here that it's a very easy throw to make, because with the Sugar 3 seam out of the nickel strong and all the variations of Sugar whatever that players run this year, they vacate this right seam area. And by having these 3 players on a triangle, you can see they're on a triangle. Well, it's kind of flattened out, but it is a triangle nonetheless. You can attack. So if your opponent actually wants to jump Decker, he's not going to be able to jump Monty Ball out of the backfield, or I believe that's Marino. Yeah, that's Marino. But if he wants to jump Decker, you can throw to Thomas here in this zone. And this is what I call a Manning throw. A bad quarterback, I'm not going to say a bad quarterback, but a lesser skilled quarterback would probably have trouble making this throw and completing it. But a Peyton Manning would be able to thread this ball to Demaryius Thomas over the middle like no problem. So again, we'll set up the defense. I like to bump and run out of it, but it is what it is. So the defense looks like this, and you have options. Play looks like this. I don't believe I re-blitzed. Yeah, I did. Okay. So you've got options. So let's say I don't want to throw to Decker. Well, I didn't streak Marino, but you would have had the streak out of the backfield there to Marino. So what else do I like to do out of this scheme? Well, this play in particular, I run it a lot. It is the base play of the scheme. So the other thing I like to do is I can't focus all my attention on these 3 receivers. I've got to be able to do some nice route combinations on the left to make my opponent respect that. So what I like to do with Welker on the left is a motion snap. Now first I want to show you something. Welker's on a skinny post. Motion him out, look where he lines up, about 2 to 3 steps outside the numbers. Now quickly, let's just audible back into stick. Now Welker's on a different route. It's not a skinny post. Now let's motion him out to that same spot. Notice where he lines up. He lines up directly on the numbers, maybe a hair outside of them. That's because skinny posts need more room to operate. You motion out a skinny post, it's a route that's breaking outside to in. It's going to give you more space to set up. So this is going to give you some nice things that you can do. You have him on a skinny post when you start to motion him out, but as you motion him out, you put him on an out route and smart it. Now he's still lining up in the same spot. It's tougher to defend that out route. So just a thought, if you want to run an out route out of the scheme, you would have to motion somebody out, but make sure they're on a skinny post to motion out first. But that's actually not what I do the majority of the time. What I like to do is a motion snap. You're going to see here, I know where he wants to stop, so I snap it just a hair early, so he stutter steps, and then I throw the ball outside pass lead and run downfield and catch it. There I didn't catch it because Welker's a bit smaller. I like to have somebody a little bit bigger out there, typically. There's a bad snap. You have to get the timing down. If you have a bad snap, you can't make this throw. You have to throw it at a different time. But this is just an option that you have. So Welker stumbles out into the flat. You can throw that ball out there on the flat all day long. If you were going to do this, I would recommend a stronger receiver like an Eric Decker, Demaryius Thomas, James Jones, Jordy Nelson, somebody like that that's got good catch and traffic, but also has the size that can endure a hit. So you've got Welker on that little pass out into the flat, and what I like about the route combination on the left side of the field is when you snap this ball, you've got Julius Thomas running a wheel route. So there will be often times where if they don't have 2 zones out there, you can catch the ball out there in the flat, and you've got Julius Thomas lead blocking for you. So that's the route combination I like most on this play, is just simply to do something of this nature, snap the ball, make your reads. Apparently Wes Welker runs over Brandon Browner, but That's what I like to do on this play. But that's not the only way I run this play. There's another way I can run it too. Now, if you see a lot of cover 2, which you might see with this play because of that quick throw to Welker, you can actually motion him to the other side. And what I like to do is just leave him on his route. And as soon as he starts to turn upfield to set, you've got a cover 2 beater. Because this skinny post is now turning into a corner pattern. So just simply motioning him left gives you an option that you can run. And this motion is actually going to mesh well with the next play I'm going to break down, which is going to use the same exact motion to help confuse your opponent. You've got the basically kind of a spot and a trail concept with Demaryius Thomas slanting over the middle, Decker stopping behind him, and then following him back over the middle. Very tough to user. And then you can check all the way out to the wheel deep down the left sideline. As you can see here, we might have had Julius Thomas on the throw, but against cover 2 look, Wes Welker on this post pattern motioned over into a corner pattern is a very nice option. So as you can see here, just a precision pass lead down and outside, and I think that's also a Manning throw. If you're to make that throw with Kaepernick, you might leave it out there too much, and or an Earl Thomas or a good strong safety, free safety, whoever's out there is going to pick that. So that's another reason I like to use the good quarterbacks. So that's Saint Spot Shake. You can check the description for the setup and the timestamps. Now I'm going to go into another play that I like to run, and this is a play that's become a personal favorite of mine because it's a great man beater. Something you're going to notice with this play, or these plays in general, is that when I'm streaking the running back out of the backfield, I actually never even threw that in the previous play, but that pressure release against zone is one of the most effective pressure releases in the game. You have the receivers on the right side clearing out zone over the middle, and then you could just dump that to the running back in the seam, and you're going to have room to run. So players are going to be forced into running quite a bit of man coverage against you. And man coverage with this formation, all the motions that I like to do, you're going to get a lot of awesome switching. So what I like to do is Saints in. Saints in is probably my favorite man beating play in the game, in this formation rather. Saint Spot Shake also beats man, as everybody knows that B route. It will spot up over the middle and then shake the defender over the middle again, and he'll get like 10 yards of separation. I didn't show that in the last play, but check it for yourself in practice mode. It's been there for years. People know about it. But what I like to do with Saints in is I like to slant Thomas over the middle, smart in route the other Thomas, the tight end, on the left side of the screen, and then I leave the skinny post and the streak on the I streak Marino and leave the skinny post on the right side. So again, check the description for the setup, but I'll run this a couple times. But what you're going to notice is here again we have a skinny post. If you motion that, it motions out wider than a regular route would. So that gives us the ability to do that motion snap to both sides of the field if we see fit. I won't do it for this example because I showed it in the previous example. But now we have Welker. Welker on this drag route, as you notice when I motioned it over earlier, for some reason the drag doesn't flip. Now it just comes a slant out, and is against, when you run it against man coverage, for the most part you'll get man switching. There I didn't. I'm just going to throw this ball up for grabs because I didn't snap it at the right time. But what I want to show you is that this play gets really good man switches if you decide to snap it at the right time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the play up again, put Julius Thomas on a smart routed in route. He's going to be your last read. But what you're going to do is you're going to motion Welker over, and as soon as he starts to turn his body to stand parallel to the line of scrimmage, shoulders square, that's when you're going to snap it. If you snap it early, he's going to block. But you're going to see, boom, right as he does that, and then you've got a man beater to the outside. Another thing you're going to notice is that when you snap it at that time, it causes a really bad switch, and you're going to get, well, you actually did a fairly good job there. I believe that's Bruce Irvin. So he's going to have the speed to keep up with the Demaryius, but Demaryius has position on Bruce. If you were to throw a low pass lead there, Bruce Irvin's not going to pick that, especially from Peyton Manning. So you've got this play right here. You can put Julius on the smart routed in route if you want. But here's an example right there. That's a Peyton Manning throw. He puts it in a spot where only the receiver can catch the ball. So set the play up again. Motion Welker over. As soon as he starts to turn upfield, that's when we snap it, throw a high pass lead out in the flat, and pick up about 15 yards. Now, like I said, you also have the skinny post. You can motion that out. I'm just going to run this solo. Snap it so he's unbumpable. Throw the pass lead to the, and basically click on and jetpack it. Something you could do with Saint Spot Shake as well. If it were zone, you do have the same motion snap to the outside on this play as well. So you have a lot of different, you're going to be using motion pretty much on every play. You're going to have quick pass options, and if you get blitzed, we'll simulate that they're blitzing here. Let's go ahead and just run zone and blitz the linebackers. Nobody would run this, but we're just pretending it's a zone blitz here. You're going to notice the pressure release to the running back out of the backfield is huge, and then you just follow your blockers. Obviously, they're not going to send 7 on a zone blitz, but you get the concept. So that's Saints in. This is going to be your man beater that's going to absolutely torch in 2 spots on the field. But this one is the big one. The next play I want to break down is a play that I actually don't really use too much motion on. This is a play that you can pretty much run stock. I like to use it against man and zone. I mean stock in terms of you're not motioning much, but what I like to do on this play is, this is the, I believe it's called Saints, I have to look at it, it's called Saints Halfback Delay. And we're actually going to take the running back off the delay en route. And the setup is very simple. You're going to streak off the slot receivers. They're going to run off the deep shell. You're going to wheel Marino. You can leave him in the backfield, or you can motion him to the strong side of the formation. And this motion is a motion I haven't broken down yet, but when you motion him, you can get the best motion snap you could possibly get by him in the flat there. And as you can see here, I just go ahead and make this throw over the middle Decker. But you can snap that without the ball, or you can tap X to get the speed boost off of the snap without them snapping it and forcing the running back to block it. He's going to get that jet out into the flat. It's going to draw the attention of the zone. And as you can see here, we've got a nice route combination. Flat on the right side, pulling the zones across to the outside. You got Welker filling in the void over the middle on the drag. You've got dual seam routes that you can basically pass lead with a great quarterback down and catch in the seam. They're also going to run off the deep zones and allow this basically, it's an angled post pattern where Decker's going to take a mandatory outside release and then cut back over the middle. They're going to clear out the zones beautifully for that, and we just throw it there over the middle for an easy completion. Now, if your opponent's in man, you can run this exact same setup. You might have had Marino, but there's Richard Sherman picking the pass off there. I don't advise throwing at Richard Sherman on this game now that he's like a 99 overall. But more often than not, he's going to get beat by this route. So motion out Marino. As you can see, I'm tapping the button to snap the ball. He gets the boost. We can throw that out there, especially against man coverage, because it's a good man beater. You're motioning somebody that's going to be guarding the running back is going to be an inside linebacker. You're motioning him out on a wheel. It's going to be tough for the linebackers to get out there. So I want to show you this angle route against man, though. So there he beats his man coverage on the beat press, but that's not what you want. I just want to show you him getting off the jam and legitimately creating separation against his opponent. So do this a couple more times. You can always hit Welker over the middle against the blitz. Yeah, see what happens there is that you're getting kind of a man switch. It looked like Averill wanted to defend him, and that is probably a result of the motion. If you don't motion, I don't think you'll get this man switch. And you don't. And that's where you're going to get Decker open the most. So if you want to use that motion, you might not have Decker against man coverage, but you're going to have the running back. If you just leave the motion, if you have a really fast running back, you probably don't even need to use the motion. So Darren Sproles is going to get that separation anyways. But You always have this nice little motion to the running back, quick flat route, turn it upfield. Real easy completion. And of course against zone coverage, which we don't have here, you've got that angled route to the inside or the two seams, check down to the running back on the drag. So that's Saints halfback delay. Now the next thing I want to show you, I've got two more plays. The first one is halfback circle. And I want to go ahead and run this against, let's go ahead and run it against zone. Because when you do a lot of the motioning from right to left, especially on that Saints in, they're going to have flat zones out there in the area. So what I like to do is I like to call this halfback circle play, and we're going to motion the Y receiver to the other side. So the setup I like to use for this play is like this. As normal, we're going to streak the running back. We're going to have dual drags, X and B. They're both on drags, so they're going to mesh over the middle. Demaryius Thomas is going to run off the deep shell, and Julius Thomas is going to be on a motion deep cross pattern, but we're going to motion it across. So now it's kind of like a kind of a modified version of an arrow pattern. Arrow patterns go to the sideline and then kind of sit there, but they're a lot more shallow. This is going to break a lot deeper. So we're going to use the same motion snap that we used with Welker to get the speed boost. So we're motioning Julius Thomas across. As soon as he starts to turn to get square, snap the ball. He's going to get the boost out to the flat. And then you're just going to make simple high-low reads. You got the Y receiver and the X receiver on those crossing patterns from left to right. So it just depends. If you get the speed boost and he beats his man, then that's where you're going to, I'm just going to throw this ball away because it's goal line. But you're basically going to use that speed boost to your advantage. Sometimes the flat zones won't cover it, and you'll be able to throw that corner pattern no problem. Running back is your pressure release valve against a zone blitz or a man blitz. And that was actually not a good throw. As you can see there, the guy jumped it to the outside. It just depends on what formation you're in. If they're in like a cover 3, you might be able to make this throw. It just basically depends on what you're seeing. What I like to use is I like to be safe with the drags, use the pressure release a lot, because you can always throw this running back route late. Come back to it. Basically, you always check the blitz. Then you have the deep patterns. So we're going to check the blitz, make sure that the blitz is not coming. Then we're going to look for the deep patterns. Nothing's open here against man coverage, so we'll just lob it downfield. But mainly what you're going to be seeing here in this play is a lot of zone beating concepts. You're going to just make simple reads. If you don't like the setup, you can drag and leave the halfback on the wheel, on the circle route. And here's something that you can do. See there, the outside zones were off coverage. If they're off coverage, you're going to have that route more often than you won't. So just run this against random defense. You'll see that it's a lot easier as you just get reps with it. You're going to know what's open and what's not. See here, we can throw the Y route. It's open. So that is halfback circle. You're just going to use the mesh combination. You've always got Thomas as a deep threat. You've got the running back as a pressure release. You can put him on a streak or leave him on the circle route. The last play I want to break down is Saints halfback wheel. And it is a play that you can use to beat both man and zone, and I'll explain why. Let's go ahead and call random play. And here we have a man blitz. Now, what you're going to see here is the way I like to set it up is all I like to do is streak Thomas. We're going to motion the corner route over the middle. Now it's a post. Now let's look at the defense. You've got so much mismatch on this side of the field. You've got guys on the left side of the screen defending guys on the right side of the screen. Namely, you've got Marino. So you got all these guys in man coverage. Marino's going to be wide open. So your opponent can really not, they're basically playing pick your poison. Do I want to play zone and get pressure release, dragged, slanted, flooded, or do I want to play man and deal with these man switches and misalignment? Because essentially what we've got is quads. We got trips bunch and then a running back. So we got quad, 4 receiving threats to one side of the field. That is very tough to play man against. So but then again, it's very tough to play zone against this formation as well. So when we snap the ball here, this is a Manning throw. You can basically just read, you're just going to read the zone. If you see that there's really nothing on the left side that's going to be dropping into the area to threaten this post pattern, you're going to throw it. Here we have the blitz. You get the pressure release to the running back. It's a lot harder for somebody who's been running this for 5 months to explain this to in a 25-minute video, but the more you run this, the more you're going to get used to it. There you had a really terrible man switch. As you can see, the guy was confused that he was actually guarding Julius Thomas. It got him the ability to create separation. See, right here, the guy's pointing like, hey, you take him. But then Julius Thomas breaks over the middle, and he ends up having to take Julius Thomas. He's wide open. So you can't run a vanilla man. You can't run zone. It's hard to blitz. What do? The most you're going to see is man all-out coverage defense with a spy. And that's tough to do as well. As you can see here, it's not good to run man against this because the switching is really bad. Now, if you run coverage defense against Peyton Manning, that's going to be more effective than most. Here's a Manning throw. As you can see here, he was really covered, but you just throw a pass lead down. That's a throw that Manning can make that a guy like Kaepernick cannot. As you can see, Y is the money route on this play. If you see man coverage, you're going to see the defense pull to a side. If it's man coverage, what I like to do is read the whole defense. If you see a bunch of players take their first step right, that means it's man coverage because you have 4 receivers on the right side of the field. So that's the best way to tell. So I just watch here. Zone coverage. I could hit the drag. See, that's a Manning throw as well. I threw it when the guy was covered. This looks like it'll probably be man. Watch how the guys will step to the right. Yeah, see how they all step to the right? That's a very quick key that it's man coverage, and you're going to have that running back open in the flat. So I'll run this one more time. Again, man coverage. You're just going to see the majority of the players all take their first step to the quad side of the field. So that is it for this breakdown. I know that was a lot of information to absorb here in a 27-minute video. I'm going to put all the descriptions or the play breakdowns in the description. I'm going to put timestamps that show you when the videos, each play starts, to make this about as clear and concise as possible. The last time I did the 43 over odd ebook on the YouTube channel, people got confused because I had like 13 videos. I thought it would be easier to do 13 1 or 2 minute videos that showed it, so that way people can just focus on one thing at a time. But people then got lost, couldn't remember videos. So I think having all the information in one video will be a better tool for people to learn this scheme. It's definitely a tough scheme to get used to. It's an even tougher scheme to defend. You can ask guys that I played 25 times. They say that it's really hard to defend this formation because of all the motioning. If you just leave it as a 2x2 set, it's a much more balanced thing to defend. But when you start to employ motion, create quads to a side, trips bunch, motion a receiver to the other side of the field, motion the running back to create empty bunch, those are things that will confuse your opponent. Not a lot of playbooks have looks like that in them stock. You have to create them with motion. A lot of players don't do that. So I think this is an offense that can get you a lot of points, and then also has things that you can fall back on, like the Saints Power O if you're a big-time runner of the ball. So go ahead and rate this video if you enjoyed it. Be sure to comment with any questions you may have. Spread the information to your friends, anybody who's looking to get better at Madden. And if you haven't subscribed, be sure to do so because I'm dropping next-gen content as well. While I'm at it, talking about the next-gen, these plays do work on the next-gen, but what you're going to notice is that the motioning from the left to the right is not the same. You're going to have to get used to the motion snapping when you motion somebody on the left side of the screen to create a bunch on the right. So go ahead and try it on the next gen. It does work. Reads are reads. So if you like that, be sure to let me know. And until then, good luck. Thank you.